There's always something that we're just like, oh, like next year.
Listen, it's the letter of the law, bro.
How are you eating this garbage?
But before it was illegal, Rob absolutely would have done it.
Then I was down to one half of one pair of binoculars.
You don't want to, at 1 a.m, after you've been up for 40 hours, have to drive an hour to the nearest hotel. I'm Dan.
I'm Rob.
I'm Justin.
We are
Avian Avarice.
Well, listen, I know one of the things that is really important is knowing the rules for the competition. And it's got to be important because we argue about the rules for like half the day sometimes, it feels like. But every competition actually has different rules. And knowing what they are can affect your strategy and how you're going to play in your day. So that could be something as simple as where does the competition take place? So like geographically, what areas are you allowed to cover for birding? It could be something about what birds can be counted, not because of the birds, but because of the team. So for example, we do the World Series of Birding where everybody on the team has to see the bird or identify the bird. And there's a certain number of birds that can be missed by one person on the team. But basically every person has to see every bird. We do another competition called the Super Bowl of Birding, which only requires the majority of people to see the bird or identify the bird, which in our case, since there's 3 of us, that means 2 out of 3 have to see it anyway. But that does set up a little bit different dynamic. And if you had a bigger team, you'd have a kind of a different arrangement. You could have 3 out of 5 see it instead of 4 out of 5.
So Dan and I frequently will argue in a academic sense about the rules of the competition. Like both of us are coming from the same standpoint of like, we want to be legit in what we are doing and how we are doing it. We want to be 100%.
I can sum this up very easily for you, Rob. This is how it is. Now that blood doping is illegal in cycling, neither Rob nor Dan would do it.
Correct.
But before it was illegal, Rob absolutely would have done it, and Dan would not have. That's the whole thing.
Listen, it's the letter of the law, bro. It's the letter of the law. Like, if the law allows it, great. We're going to take the competitive edge. If the law does not allow it, we are not going to take that competitive edge. I'm all about what the rules are by the verbiage that they choose to use. We will have heated, like, not friendship deforming, but like we will have 100% honest debates about like, hey, bro, like I saw this. This is what the rules state. This is what the rules state. I want to make sure that I'm within the rules. Again, so it's nice to have that balance of personalities on the team. It's nice to have that balance of interpretation of the rules, because at the end of the day, like, you want to have honest conversation with your own teammates of like, hey, listen, when we present this list, we want to make sure that this is like the legit list that we're presenting to the judges to actually evaluate us, because at the end of the day, like, we want to make sure that we are 100% giving the most accurate list of what we have done for that day. So that's definitely part of the preparation.
So just like for a life list or any other list that you might have, there's usually rules about what counts on a big day or during a competition. And for the most part, all the competitions that you're going to encounter out there are going to probably follow the ABA's counting rules, which basically stipulate that the bird's got to be free flying. It's got to be naturally occurring. It's got to be wild, basically. It's not something that is in a zoo or, you know, somebody has brought with them to the competition or something like that. And they have to be something that you as a team identify conclusively, basically, that you really know that that's what it is. Now, there's some caveats there that are interesting. So, for example, in New Jersey, we have monk parakeets that are considered naturalized. So they are introduced, but the New Jersey Records Committee has basically decided that because they've lived here long enough and met certain criteria, they're an established population, and you can count them on the World Series of Birding. We got some nice footage of them on our most recent World Series of Birding video, actually. If you haven't seen that, you should check it out. Then there's also the case of a SPA. So that's kind of I think it's kind of a newer thing in the last 5 or 10 years it's kind of developed. If you have a pair of birds or a group of birds that you can't differentiate between the two, but you know it's one of them, you might be able to count it in that competition depending on the rules. So common examples are something like greater and lesser scaup, which are really hard to find on the World Series of Birding and also could be tough to ID. So if you see one, you're probably not going to see the other. And if you report it as SCOP species, SPA, that counts as a bird for the list, even though it's not actually genuinely a species. Maybe a competition will allow you to do something like willow and alder flycatcher as trails flycatcher, or some other kind of grouping like alcid or some other larger taxon. But those kinds of things are important to understand because they can boost your total if you know how they work.
In the Super Bowl of birding in Massachusetts, Massachusetts Audubon has a list of all the likely birds that you're able to see. And they value them by rarity as 5 being the most rare and 1 being the most common. And in Massachusetts, if you find a 5-point bird and you're the first one to find the 5-point bird, that bird becomes 8 points. And the only way to know is by calling the Massachusetts Audubon, who's on call that day, literally waiting for calls like this. And if you are the first one to get one, get a 5-pointer, it becomes 8. And I believe we've only done it once with the pied-billed grebe.
Yeah, I guess so. Because we had a second bird that would have been an 8-pointer, that eared grebe that we saw the one year, but there was only 2 of us on the competition, which is below the minimum. So we weren't like actually a competing team that could win. But that would have been an 8-pointer too. That's a pretty good bird.
Sometimes it's good to get experience, even if you can't actually compete in the event. And that was a year that like both of you guys were able to do it. I was not. I didn't have the availability, and so it was nice to be able to like make a presence, make a stand. But then again, you just couldn't count it. Like I get that. But that's part of
it. Was not in vain though, because if Dan and I didn't go up there those last 2 years and the 4 of us just went, we would have no idea what we were doing or where we were going.
I mean, I feel like even if you cannot officially compete, going through the motions of that, like understanding the strategy, understanding like the pitfalls, understanding like oh man, we came up with a strategy. Geez, we're never going to go to Jersey City again on a big day.
If you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said this is the last place I want to drive on World Series. Yeah. It's 1:15 in the afternoon, and we find ourselves about 45 minutes behind schedule thanks to the traffic in Jersey City.
Like that's huge to understanding how the team can progress going forward as that team builds. Like that's huge.
Yeah, and you know what, Rob? I'm glad you kind of mentioned this. It's a good place for me to interject. I hear a lot of people tell me something like, oh, I'm not good enough to do the World Series of Birding. Or like, I'm not going to win, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we haven't won in the last couple of years either, but like, we're still doing it. I think everybody should try this. Like, maybe not everybody's going to love it, but everybody who's a birder should give this a shot. And, one of the things you have to think about is who's going to be on your team, right? Mm-hmm. Rob's talking about, well, what if you don't really even have enough people to do a team? Maybe the competition will let you participate in an informal way, or the World Series of Birding has like a non-competing category. But the point is, even if you don't think you're going to win, you're going to have, first of all, an awesome time, and you're also going to learn a lot of stuff. And maybe that leads to better competition later, or maybe it doesn't. But the experience is awesome. And just, I mean, if you don't know, you should watch a couple of our videos about the World Series of Birding. You're going to see the camaraderie that develops, the fun that we have, the challenges that we overcome. All of those kinds of things are what make the day so great. And it doesn't matter if you don't win. You should be trying it out. So, like, this is my plug. Everybody who's watching this video, you should find a competition near you and you should enter in it. And you should try it. And if you do miserably, it might still be one of your best birding experiences ever. So try it. Once you know the rules of the competition, there's probably a bunch of other little things you need to take care of before you go. So if it's just a day competition like our Christmas bird counts are, there's not a lot of prep that goes into it. But if you have to drive somewhere, or if it's a 24-hour competition like the World Series, you might need to go get some lodging. So you might need to get a hotel room somewhere. You don't want to wait to the last minute because you might find that rooms are booked. You can't get somewhere close to the competition. We can speak from experience. You don't want to, at 1 a.m, after you've been up for 40 hours, have to drive an hour to the nearest hotel. And you also don't want to wait until 30 minutes before the competition ends at midnight to try to book a hotel, because we've done that too, and that's not a good idea. So take a look at that kind of stuff ahead of time. You may want to think about things like what kind of car you're going to bring, because that makes a difference. Do you have enough capacity for whoever's going to sit in there? Can you see out the window well? Is there a skylight? Because being able to look through a moon roof is really convenient sometimes for hawks and things like that. All of those types of things play a role. You may also want to think a little bit about what you're going to do for some of the gear that you need to bring, or some of the food that you need to bring. We're going to talk about both of those things in just a second. But once you kind of have some of that basic stuff squared away, then you're going to have to start thinking about planning out your route, no matter how long or short that is, and planning out what you're going to do for scouting. So most events have some kind of scouting involved, where you're going to look for birds before you can look for birds. The idea of that is you're looking to see where birds are hanging out in the days leading up to the competition, and they don't count yet, but they're going to give you an idea of where you should look again on the day of the competition. So the scouting and the route planning kind of all go together, and scouting affects route planning, the route planning affects the scouting, and you kind of work them in concert until you sharpen your route to what you want it to be.
Part of the issue every year for us for the preparation is we have a very open, a very honest conversation about and dialogue about what our responsibilities are for the week leading up to the competition, what we can actually reasonably do. We always joke around of like, we're dudes with real jobs, and we don't mean to like disparage anyone else with whatever other environmental like focus that they have, but their amount of field time versus what we can do is like it's incomparable. So we're always like this kind of somewhat underdog in the competitions. But that's part of the preparation of like we need to have very realistic conversations like, hey, listen, yeah, dudes, like I can do this scouting on A, B, and C days. What can you do? What territories can you cover? What territories can I cover? What elbows can I rub to kind of understand like, hey, listen, like I can't cover these areas. Can I give you this information about these birds in this area? Can you give me this information about these birds in this area, to try and have the genuine best possible case so far as the big day or the competition or whatever.
Since birding has gone digital in the last couple of years, it's really become the case that not all of your scouting has to be your own. And like we don't scout for the Super Bowl of birding because it's 4 hours away from where we live. So you're going to also have a lot of opportunities to maybe get information from other people. There might be like a swap meet of some sort, like for the World Series, where people are putting information on the internet. And then of course is eBird. I mean, eBird is like the resource for everything now. And you can go on there, and it's not quite the same as being there in real life. It's not as good, but at least you can look and see, well, okay, Sanderling was seen on this beach, but it wasn't seen on this beach. And you can start to build information that way. So there's tons of resources out there, even if you've never done it before, even if you've never been there before, which was our case for the Super Bowl the first time we did it.
This is our first time doing the Super Bowl of birding. We are Team Avian Avarice. We have no idea what we're doing. We've never been here before. And we're basically just kind of going cold turkey. We're going to see what happens.
We just showed up and started birding, and we based everything off of eBird. So there's other places to get information from as well. One of the things that can really drag you down on a competition is if you waste time doing things like stopping for gas a whole bunch of times or stopping for food. Now, it used to be the case on the Christmas bird count. We actually went to a restaurant for like an hour and like had burgers. And we could do that because we didn't have a lot of ground to cover. But we have stopped doing that.
And also, it was delicious. Let's point that out. Yeah.
We've stopped doing that because we want to maximize our time, and we've become a lot more competitive with that event. But for something like the World Series of Birding or even the Super Bowl of Birding, we don't want to waste any time stopping for food. So one thing you have to consider is, what are you going to bring with you? So we bring all of our food in the car with us. That means we have a cooler. That means that we have all of the drinks, all the food that we're gonna consume for the entire time that we're there. Now, I am terrified of not having something I want when I want it in the World Series of Birding. So the guys know I bring way more stuff than I need. But that's because I don't want to be even the slightest bit bothered by like, gosh, I wish I had that snack right now. No, I want it. So I could just think about birds the whole time. So I bring a bunch of extra stuff but it's worth talking a little bit about what we used to do and what we do today, because so Rob and I have been on teams together going all the way back to 2007, I want to say. And in the early days, we were like just out of college and our eating habits were a lot different. And we really didn't necessarily know how the food was impacting us during the day, or maybe it wasn't yet and it slowly kicked in as we got older, but we made a lot of very questionable decisions in the early days. I used to always buy like a family size box of cereal and I would eat the entire thing by the end of the day. And it was just because like it was easy to snack on while I'm sitting in the front seat navigating, and I could just, it like satiated me because it was carbs or whatever. But eventually like that kind of stuff like started to make us feel really tired by the end of the day. Rob had an infamous incident with a bottle of muscle milk. I'll let him, I won't put him through the terrible like recollection of remembering the chunks coming out of the bottle, but we changed our whole menu a couple of years ago because we kind of felt that we could actually do something with food that would make us compete better instead of worse. And I think really, Justin, I think that was really kind of your idea, right? Like, tell us about where you came from with that.
Yeah, of all the best things I've thought of as a member of this team, my best idea has nothing to do with the birds themselves. I sort of start off with that. The first year I sat with these two guys, they had already been in a team for a while, and I remember thinking and saying to you guys, like, how are you eating this garbage? How are you eating this all day? Boxes of Cheez-Its, dried boxes of cereal, just absolute crap. So the next year, I made a bag of chicken drumsticks and some kebabs, but the kebabs really caught on because it's all good fruit and I buy high quality meats. I don't buy even garbage meat, but it's a one-handed snack of nothing but just good old protein that I marinate it and stuff. And then Dan could keep his checklist going while just one biting, and Rob could keep driving with just biting it. And then we have biodegradable bamboo skewers on top of it. It's like the perfect food vessel for what we're trying to do. And now every year I have a couple of standard ones, but we rotate the third. And Rob last year borderline demanded duck, so we had duck. Next year I don't know what we're doing yet, but yeah, I mean, that's usually, so part of my planning for our World Series of birding is I usually scout Wednesday and Friday before, but Thursday is my cook day. I dedicate my entire Thursday after work from when I get home from school to just cook until it's done. I even had my mom come up and help me skew them because that was the time killer. So even after years of doing this, what you think is the same thing before each competition, you start finding little nuances to save time and make your life a lot easier. So,
and I have to interject this here because
yeah,
everybody comments on this. The year that you did the meat the first time with the drumsticks also happened to be the year that we were filmed by HBO. So if you don't know this, we were on HBO's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. They did a special on the World Series of Birding, and we were a big part, the majority part of that segment. And during the segment, there's a picture of me eating the drumstick, like taking a bite out of it in the car. And like they filmed us the whole time, and there was nothing I had to eat at some point. They filmed us and they got this picture there. So every time somebody I know watches that episode, they're like, oh yeah, they got you eating the drumstick. I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do about it? But if it just happened to be that year that we started with the drumsticks that they filmed us.
100%. That is a huge difference. Of once we started getting into like getting away from carbs, once we started getting towards actual sustainable energy, that was a huge difference in our overall longevity and performance, et cetera. Like that was a huge bump. And the fact that it tastes great while we're doing it, great morale boost. 100% on board,
It really does matter because at the end of any competition, you really could be fatigued. And if it's a 24-hour competition, the end of the day, you could be really loopy if you're not paying attention. And that's another thing to mention when you're talking about planning for a competition. If you've never stayed up for 24 hours, I mean, like a 24-hour competition it's a big ask. If you have stayed up for 24 hours, like maybe you pulled an all-nighter in college because you had that term paper to write, This is a different animal because of just how much activity is involved with it. But in all seriousness, if you've never done a competition before, you're going to need to learn to pace yourself, and you're going to need to learn to like save some for the end of the day in a certain way. So that might mean sleeping a little bit when you can in the car if it's a really long competition, or just even like taking care of yourself leading up to the competition. Try to get some good sleep the previous couple of days. That's not, the day before is not the day to go out on a roof shirtless and get sunburned and, come to the competition with sun poisoning the next day. You know what I'm saying?
They spoke about sleep. You have to have strategic sleep depending on what kind of competition you're doing. In our particular World Series, like we have a big stretch where we're going down a major highway. 100%, we need to have someone like rested and fueled up. We can have the other guy conscious, because even if something flies over, we can get a 95% bird. Like that's kind of part of the strategy that you go into. Like you want to make sure you're taking care of your team members. You want to make sure you're taking care of your vehicle. I make a point to like pretty much before the competition, I'm making sure that I have oil changes. I'm making sure that I have either new tires and new brakes, if that's like part of like the standard maintenance type of thing, making sure that I'm having oil changes, all that nonsense. I make a point to use the vehicle that has the big, I don't know what you would call it. Not a moon roof, but like, skylight type of thing, for the purpose of like, if anything stupid is flying over, like there's been a big point of contention / ribbing, like, good-natured ribbing over a stupid Mississippi kite that has flown over the vehicle in the middle of like 50 miles of driving from north to south, where maybe there was not enough team members to be awake to actually recognize that. I 100% was one of those people one year, and then I was the redeeming factor another year. So like I feel like at least on par with that. But like those are the silly, stupid things that really make a big part as to how you're actually approaching the day, strategizing, creating their route, etc.
Okay, so if you have your scouting sort of figured out, and if you are trying to actually build the route, that's a whole episode unto itself to explain all the things that go into route building. But some general things you're going to think about, firstly, are how can you make the most time efficient, expeditious route you can, because you want to do the most birding and the least not birding that you can in the time that you have. So to do that, I'm usually the one who does most of the heavy lifting on this team. And I use basically a combination of Google Maps and Google Sheets. And I build a spreadsheet and I put the times in and I add things up. And that allows me to figure out how long it's going to take to get from one place to another. And at this point, I'm doing that for all of our competitions, even our CBC, which is not really a competition, but boy, do we treat it that way. The other thing you want to keep in mind is you have to go where birds are. So you're going to think about what kinds of habitats are in the different places that you're going. What kind of habitats do you need to go to in order to get all the birds that could potentially be in the area? You need to think about stuff like where are birds going to be active at what time? So nocturnal birds, you can only look for at night, obviously. And birds that are going to be primarily ID'd by sound, you probably are going to try to need to get in the morning. And then you might have to think about tides, which is like a constant problem for us when we're in the southern part of the World Series of Birding route. Getting somewhere at high tide when you need it to be low tide can really ruin what you're going to see there. So you have to factor those things in. You need to know what time sunup and sundown is. All of those types of environmental factors are important. And we've had problems in the past where like there was a festival that we didn't know about that blocked the road in Belmar, or there was a townwide garage sale in Wildwood we didn't know about, and that blocked the roads there. So like being aware of those types of things, or closures of roads or wildlife sanctuaries, are also important to know about. And then there's access issues too. Like there's maybe some places where you're on private property or you're only allowed to access under certain circumstances. So you need to square all that stuff away as well.
And don't forget,
once you got all of those things are done, you still need to pack your car at some point and get all the gear that you need to have. And that ranges everywhere from things like clothing to optics to maybe rain gear or things of that nature.
bug spray.
Justin, do you remember the time at Great Swamp where Andrew forgot the permethrin?
We got to our first location before midnight, and he wanted to walk down this road to just do one last minute scout at like 11:50, and he came back at 11:58, and he had walked through this grassy road, and then throughout I don't know how many more hours. I mean, I want to say it even got to
Like 12
sunrise. He was
hours.
just picking ticks off his neck, looking out the window, and kept count, and got up to 21 or
Yeah,
22.
all for a stupid king rail that we never got.
Yeah.
It cannot be stressed enough. Like, generally speaking, a lot, at least, World Series of Birding is kind of like the big event that we've done historically with our group, and it's like perfect like tick bomb season, and that's 100% always the risk. And the issue is, like, if you don't go through the proper preparation of doing like permanent style tick repellent and bug repellent, like, it is going to be a miserable day. Like, we were trying to do World Series this year, and like there was one section of Brigantine that was like near impossible. We knew birds were there, but like you have bugs crawling into your eyes to the point where you can't even like look through your scopes and through your optics. It was miserable. So like having that level of preparation is key.
So I have a pair of jeans that I wear once a year, and they are the World Series of Birding jeans. And I spray them with permethrin. And the three of us, to our credit, this past World Series, we walked through some areas where we normally probably would have gotten ticks, and we cumulatively had zero, I believe.
Yeah.
That's
And for
pretty
those of
good.
you who don't know, permethrin is essentially like the active ingredient in Raid, and you can buy it and apply it to your clothing. You can't spray it on your body, but you could apply it to your clothing ahead of time and let it dry, and it gives you a remarkable level of protection from ticks. And so we always treat our clothing with that ahead of time to make sure that we're minimizing our risk for any kind of ticks or tick-borne illnesses or things like that. You also want to make sure you have all of your optics. So most competitions are going to, well, all of them probably, you're going to want to have your binoculars. And if you're going to be doing a lot of water birding, you're probably going to want to have one or more scopes. So for something like the Super Bowl of birding, which is a lot of offshore stuff, we bring 3 or 4 scopes. And for something like the CBC, where we do some lake birding, but less, we bring maybe 1 or 2 scopes. And that's a little slower pace, so we can share scopes if we need to. Justin, you remember the time, I'm pretty sure it was a Super Bowl of birding, that somebody forgot their binoculars?
No, I didn't forget them. Hang on a second. It snowed, and I had my coat opened a little bit, and my binoculars were tucked in there, and a big snowflake just fluttered right down and fogged up the right side of my. Oh, that was the same day my scope got blown over in the wind, and I was down to one half of one pair of binoculars, and I was looking through my binoculars with an eye closed, and I wasn't very happy.
Well, I do remember the one year that I forgot the route. Do you remember that?
In the box?
There was a year that, so we print out the route on a piece of paper, and I have a checklist on a clipboard, and we follow the route and I write notes on it. Well, one year we went to the Super Bowl of birding and I forgot it. Like, I left the route at home, and I had to have, I think what I ended up doing was my wife was at home and she took a picture of it and like texted it to us, and that's what we had. But yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you bring the route with you when you're doing a competition.
So, in summary, basically, you're going to learn the most by doing this through experience. And the best thing you could do before the first time you join a competition is to try to think ahead of all the scenarios that you can on your own. And hopefully you watch this video and realize there's a lot more to it than you probably realized. But you definitely need to be prepared as much as you can. And just go out there and give it your best. You will definitely not know everything. You will definitely walk away from your first time out knowing that, wow, I can't believe I didn't think of this. And next year I'm going to do that. And then next year it's going to come to next year. And then something else is going to happen. And even us, there's always something that we're just like, oh, like next year. It's a lifelong learning adventure. And those of you who have never done it, you don't know what you're missing.